In this episode of MPTV, we are in the home of Sundance Festival. We are in Park City, Utah on Main Street. We're gonna sit down with Tana, the 5th generation of Red Banjo Pizza. We're gonna talk about what it's like to be the 5th generation and the proprietor and operator of the oldest restaurant, the oldest business in Park City. We're gonna dig into what the impact is on their business and how they're adjusting to not having a huge event like Sundance this year. But we're also gonna talk about what she's done from a grassroots marketing standpoint to stand out and to make an impact on tourists that come into town. Let's go check it out. Hey, what's up? It's Matt. We're back with another episode of MPTV. This time we're in a place that you have to love. Park City, Utah, the winter, the ski slopes, and also amazing food. And we are with Tana from Red Banjo Pizza. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing amazing. So I guess tell the audience a little about yourself, your family, and the history of this amazing business, which goes back a long way.
Yes. So we are Park City's oldest business. We opened in 1962. My grandparents opened it. It was still a ghost town. There were 800 people here, I think.
Wow.
And there was no skiing. The ski resort opened a year later. And at the time, we opened it as a bar. And my grandma likes to joke that the first time they opened for a holiday, it was the 4th of July. They sold $400 worth of dime beers. So they didn't have any food. They just had dime beers. So you can imagine that was a lot of beer on the 4th of July in 1962.
Yep.
In 1969, we became a pizza restaurant, and we've been serving pizza to locals and tourists alike ever since.
And you're the 6th generation, you said?
My niece and nephew are
Okay.
6th generation Park City, and my brother and I are the 5th generation. So now my niece and nephew, when they take over the restaurant, fingers crossed, they'll be the 4th generation running the restaurant. So.
Was there a knowledge the ski resort was coming, I'm guessing? Is that?
A little bit. There was something called Ecker Hill, which was like a ski jump, and skiing was kind of becoming popular. There was Aspen, Sun Valley, and but nothing like you can imagine now. I mean, it really blew up in the 80s. So, there was definitely some times in the 60s and 70s where you wouldn't even you could hear a pin drop on Main Street, which you would never hear now in Park City. So it definitely has changed, but my grandma said she could never have imagined that it would become the destination it is now.
So outside of the past 12 months and what we've went through, what's it like with a restaurant like this that's, I'm guessing, majority tourist business, correct?
It is, yes. We have shoulder seasons. We call them mud seasons in the spring. So basically the snow is melting, but it's still snowing. You can't ride your bike, can't go hiking. The ski resort is closed. It's not very fun. But that leads into about 2 months of it being pretty slow here. It's getting a little better. With COVID, actually, we didn't have an off season really this November, which was amazing. And I think that's because people were not traveling to like Europe or even going on an airplane. So a lot of California had moved here into their second homes, and so we're kind of seeing a little bit of a transition. Every day is different. We don't know what to expect. I can't even look at our numbers from last year because they do not resonate with what's going on. So,
what's it like from a marketing standpoint, from a business standpoint? Because, if I'm traditionally coming to Park City every year to ski, and now maybe people aren't coming as much, or maybe people that haven't come here, like you mentioned, the California ski slopes and the environments out there, how do you get through to them? Is it just being on the main street and being here? Or is there something unique you do?
There's definitely that, but I am old school in my marketing, and I go out and I hit the pavement. So in November, I went to every single hotel, made sure all the concierge knew who I was. They all got a free pizza coupon. They got coupons for their guests that they needed to give something to. I have a lot of friends in the tourism industry, and then I serve as the vice president of the Business Alliance. So just really making connections throughout town, but really the concierge is your best friend. And if you keep those concierge happy in a ski town, they're definitely calling you. And even just, walking through with our delivery guys will walk through a hotel lobby with pizza, and, they just see that advertisement on the back and they'll call and they'll say, we saw you in the lobby. So, but I keep it very, we do advertise in some coupon books, and we do advertise in some of the magazines, but we also want to support some of our local newspapers, so we'll advertise there this year. But for the most part, it's word of mouth. And the other great place to go is your ski techs. So we go to all the ski every single ski shop, all the techs know who we are because they're getting their skis, they're getting their kids' boots fitted, and like, where's your favorite pizza restaurant? Where's your favorite restaurant? So that's been another great avenue for us to guerrilla market too.
And that's great, because we were actually in New Jersey. Matthew Borowski owns a restaurant called 618 up there, and I asked him a similar question. What do you do that your competitors typically don't do, because that's a little more exhausting? He said, grassroots, we knock on doors. It's like, I go to every hotel. The people at the front desk know what we do. They know we host weddings. They know we're a steak restaurant. And that's the mouthpiece.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it takes effort. You can't just, I always say, advertising's easy, marketing's hard. It's easy to put an ad in a paper or buy a Facebook ad. It's hard to put a strategy together and say, okay, what am I going to go talk to this person at the hotel about?
Right, exactly. And it's really just getting to know their story too. I've spent, I besides working in the restaurant, have spent time in the tourism industry, in hotels, and being that person. The front desk person and the concierge are sometimes the worst treated people. So you make them feel really good, and they're gonna, make the guests feel really good.
Yeah, I had a client of mine years ago in Pittsburgh that his restaurant was dictated on two things: the college campus, but also the parents when they would come in to see the colleges.
Right.
And he made the comment, he's like, I tell every hotel, every person at these places, they eat for free all the time.
Yeah.
He's like, I give them a card, I call it the owner card.
Oh, and
they literally can come down. And he said, you might think they abuse. He's like, but at the end of the day, that concierge talking to thousands of people a month, if she comes down here and eats twice a week for free, you know what, I'm game, because now she's gonna remember me. And then when people ask that question, where does she eat for free? She's like, he was telling me, the one lady who came twice a week, the only place that did that. And she's like, she didn't come to abuse it. She came because she loved it, and she would tip a lot.
Yes.
But she also recommended every person, where do I eat? You go to this place.
Yes, exactly. And it's just getting the word of mouth out there. And then we do offer things that other pizza restaurants in town don't. So we do a cauliflower crust, we do a gluten-free crust, and we've actually heard that some of our bigger competitors who, I don't want to call them competitors, they're friends, they've been in town for a while, but they don't want to get into that. So they've said, call Red Banjo, so they're recommending us to their clients who want that kind of pizza. And then we've just, it's all about the locals spreading the word too here. And my grandma, she always preached to be as nice as possible to everyone, because you never know who that person is. And so that her message and who she is, excuse me, has just resonated with the town. And there was some people who haven't been here in 30 years that came in yesterday and said, we remember your grandma, and we just come here, and we haven't been in Park City for 30 years, but we remember this place, and we remember the quality of service we got from her, and she treated us just like anyone else. So, but to remember someone after 30 years to come back to their restaurant really says something about it. So.
Well, it also says something about the way the restaurants run, because a lot of tourism towns fall the opposite way.
Right.
Las Vegas is a good example. I go to Vegas a few times a year, and not to knock on Las Vegas, but I rarely get an exceptional experience.
Right.
Because the employees don't really care. They know it's a one-time, it's not like you're going to come back a week or 2 or 3 weeks later like a local restaurant.
Yes.
And sometimes they lose that focus of making that experience awesome, so that they come back. Because we go to Snowshoe, my kids will take it to West Virginia ski.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
We've gone there, and Cheap Mountain Pizzas, like we always have good pizza there. And so it's like top of mind. We got to go to Cheap Mountain.
Yeah.
When we go to Destin, Florida, it's Fuddpuckers. It's an alligator themed restaurant. We always got to go there. And it's because very few places stick out in your mind, because they just don't go over and above and do different stuff.
Exactly. And one thing we do too is, as you can imagine in a tourist town, especially this year with half of our tables, you're waiting. There's going to be a line. And my grandma always taught us that you tell the customer before they even sit down where we are in the kitchen, and they're going to have a much better experience. And people always respect that. If you say to them, we're at a 30-minute, 40-minute wait right now, and I know that seems like a lot, then they're fine, as long as you've been honest with them from the beginning. And so we really try to keep that honesty with our customers and be as transparent as we can. And then, we're probably one of the most, if not the most affordable place on the street, and we could up our prices quite a bit. I mean, we're in Park City, there's a lot of money here. Yeah. So, but we don't, because, we feel that we have a very quality product, but we also want to make sure that we're helping the people that don't have millions of dollars to spend. And, we cater to everybody, so we feel that that's the way to go, versus like making a quick buck and then, not providing the service and the quality.
Talk about the carrying on the tradition, because most restaurants people eat at are 5, 10, 15 years old. They're 1 or 2 generations. They're not 5 and 6 generations. You said you and your brother are the 5th generation. What's it like? I mean, is there a pressure of knowing that you've got to keep that up? Because I'll have people that watch the podcast and listen to it, and they'll tell me like, yeah, I'm taking over my great-great-grandfather's business. And that to me is kind of scary, and they like hearing the feedback from other people in the same situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually fun and exciting. I ran it after I ran it after college for a while, and that was great, but I knew that I also needed to like go out and see the world and see what else was going on out there. And it really took me leaving Park City to come back and realize that this is what I want to do and this is where I want to be. And, you know, my family supports that, and I think that their support is what gets us through and how we're going to be more successful.
Okay, break time. Restaurant owners, you're watching MPTV, so you're obviously interested in increasing your sales and profits. But what if I told you you could eliminate the hope and pray out of your marketing? You could spend money and actually see results. You know, most marketing starts with attention, like a billboard. The problem is that attention leads nowhere. That's why we created the ROI Engine Restaurant Program. We take attention and gain huge engagement, whether it's in-store or online. We help you build a database with deep customer information that's comprised of email, cell phone, and birthday. And then we drive them into the restaurant with trackable results. Yes, results you can actually see. If you're interested and want to have a conversation, check out restaurantmarketingthatworks.com. Worst case scenario, you get a lot of great ideas. Now back to the show. So along the lines of taking it over, and you mentioned niece and nephews are going to be the 6th generation. Is there anything that you all do to indoctrinate family members into it, to get them at a young age, to kind of to get that in their blood?
Well, my grandma loves to tell this story. It's her favorite story. So I mean, Park City, even in this will date me, but like in the 80s when I was in elementary school and middle school in the 80s and 90s, you definitely wanted to come to Red Banjo after school, because when you came here, it meant that like you got to have pizza. So it'd be like going over to your friend's house and they give them like graham crackers, but we got like cheese pizza and we got Cokes, and you know, your parents didn't know you were having a Coke. And so all of my friends loved to come here and play restaurant. And so, you know, we did that from when we were, 7 years old until high school. But during that time, I wasn't just playing restaurant with my friends here, I was also involved in it every day. So I got off the school bus, and you know, my parents didn't have a babysitter, so I would come straight here, and I was here and my brother was here, and my grandma taught me how to wait tables when I was really little. So I knew how to count the till when I was 3, and I could count back change. And so she, you know, it's not like here's $15.35. It was counting it back to the 20. And so that's a skill that not a lot of people have. But her favorite story is that back in the day, you didn't have a POS system. You just wrote everything out by hand. And so we would write down their order, and then on the back you'd put like thank you or come again or whatnot. But I would always write people like some elaborate note. And there were these 4 gentlemen who were, you know, drinking beer, and I don't think I served them the beer, but it was the 80s, who knows. And so I wrote on the back, Happy Mother's Day. So it was Mother's Day, and they thought that was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. But I thought, you know, these gentlemen must really want to celebrate Mother's Day. That's why they're here having beer. But, you know, they had just been golfing. So they called my grandma over and, you know, said that here, they actually gave me a $20 tip back then. And that was when I was like 5 or 6 years old. So, you know, people just loved that. But I was at clearing tables, I was waiting tables, and, you know, I'm basically like, my grandmother is probably one of the most personable people you'll ever meet, and she just really instilled that in me. And so I've become kind of that face of it now. But my brother, I mean, he had a crib in the kitchen, like no joke, in the 80s, and there's a dumbwaiter, and he got in there, I guess, I put him in there when he was like 2 or 3 and sent it downstairs and got it stuck. So we were here, we played in here. I was in a lot of trouble for that one, but yeah, I mean, our family's been here, and all we did was learn how to be in the restaurant, so.
You mentioned the dumbwaiter. It brings back a story. This isn't restaurant oriented, but a friend of ours had one of those in their house, but it was it was since taken out, and it was a laundry chute apparently. Well, I thought it was a garbage can. I threw a nice big ice cream cone at the bottom. Well, by all chance, the bridesmaid's dress for the wedding that weekend was on an ironing board below the chute.
Wow.
So I have a little. You lost a brother down one of those. I lost an ice cream cone.
Oh my gosh,
on a
yeah,
dress.
they're crazy. I mean, they're funny, but.
So the niece and nephew, they're getting their taste of it. I'm
they
guessing.
are, yeah. They come in and they like to help. You know, they like to clear the tables a little bit, and they like to get paid in candy though. So my niece, I said, okay, well, you know, I think you did a really good job. We'll give you $1. She's 5, and she said, well, I just want 3 cups of Skittles. And I was like, okay, well then we'll pay you in Skittles.
My type of kid.
I know. So she could have cared less about the money, but yeah, they're here and they bring their friends in now, and it's become, you know, the next generation of kids are coming in, and it's great to see my friends who've all moved back from college and they've started their families here, and they bring them in, and you know, the biggest compliment that we get is that you've updated the restaurant, it's updated, but it still feels like home. It feels exactly the way it did in 1985 when I got off the school bus with you. It feels like home, and so that's the best compliment you can get, is that you've definitely, you know, given it a bit of a facelift, but you still have those same values that have stuck with you since the 60s for us.
Yeah,
so.
well, that's what I liked when I walked in here. We actually walked by here the other night, right after I got your email. By complete coincidence, we walked by here, and what I like about it is too many places, I think, become today's look and feel.
Right.
And this has Americana touch to it.
It does.
But like you said, it's updated. It's clean. It's well taken care of. It's updated a little from a standpoint of cosmetic, but at the same time, it still feels like I could look 30, 40 years ago and being here.
Yeah, absolutely. And we try to have a little bit of themes on the walls, and like the one behind you here is our cancer wall, and this actually started with my friends in high school. We were just drawing on dollars and napkins and putting them on the wall, and then we decided, what are we going to do with this money? And so a couple times a year, we just take all the money and we match it, and then we donate it to some sort of cancer research. So we've done that now for, gosh, over 20 years, and it's been fantastic. So we have that wall, and then what's funny is behind here actually is a window into the kitchen, and until like 1990, you could just watch people in the kitchen, and then we realized that there was a lot of not bad stuff, but you don't necessarily want people watching your kitchen, especially back, you know, in the 80s and 90s when it wasn't like the cool thing to do as it is in some, you know, fancier restaurants now. But and then we have an Olympic wall from when we had the Olympics, and we've had, I think at this point, about 10 different people who have gone on to the Olympics work here. So it's really fun for them to come when they've served, and they've served tables, they've cooked, and for them to be able to tell their stories has been really cool. So, yeah.
So talking about events and things of that nature, you mentioned that we're a couple weeks as we're filming this away what would be the Sundance event. Like Sundance. Today is when it would have started.
Yes.
And you know, that's an event, I'm guessing, that every year brings a lot of change and a lot of revenue that isn't happening now. So talk about that and what that's like to kind of not experience that.
Yeah, it's close to, I believe, $200 million in revenue for the state. So it is a big loss this year. And you know, they said they'll come back next year, so we're really hoping for that. But it is going to be a little bit different. For us, you know, we'll power through. But normally, what happens is you rent out your building. A lot of the restaurants become another kind of restaurant, or become like Chase Sapphire or Airbnb or whomever wants to rent them out. We rent to a production company every year, and you know, they pay for a lot of our you know, to make it through for the shoulder seasons. And not having that is definitely going to be a little bit of a detriment to us. You know, it's a pretty hefty amount of money for the city to lose, as well as for the street to lose. And we do have skiers in town, but it's traditionally been the best time to ever go skiing. So if you hear this in a year or two, come during this time, because no one skis, and the whole town is packed with you know, movie stars and with people in the industry, but no skiers. So we always love to go out and ski during that time. But you know, this started out as a really small film festival, and about 40 years ago, and it has now blossomed into, you know, what is the number 2 film festival in the world. So it's definitely you know, going to be an interesting next few weeks. So.
Restaurant owners, did you know Matt has free online marketing courses that teach you how to successfully market your restaurant? Email support@mattplapp.com to get access to the courses and a free social media content calendar.
So in talking about Sundance, and obviously 2020 and into 21 has brought a lot of differences to the tourism business, what are you learning to do to pivot? Because I know we mentioned off camera, a lot of restaurants traditionally have that built-in traffic. I know you do a lot of grassroots stuff, but is there anything you're doing or looking at doing to maybe insulate you a little more that, okay, I talked to a restaurant recently that said, before COVID, we never worried about an email or text list.
Right.
People showed up every year at these times on the beach.
Yeah.
Now we don't know, and we're thinking, okay, what if this happens again? Let's build an email and a text list. Let's communicate with people. Anything you all are doing to look into the future to maybe protect yourself a little?
Yeah, there's a few things. One is that, right when COVID hit, we realized that so many service workers were going to end up losing their jobs. I mean, now, luckily, we are not in an unemployment rate here in this city. A lot of we actually have a hard time finding employees right now, but we decided that every day we would donate at least one meal to a family in need. So we continue to do that throughout the summer, and then we've partnered with the Christian Center here in town that if there's anybody who's needs food or needs any sort of thing, then we're gonna be a place that you can come to get food. Okay. And so that's just helped us from like a community standpoint and just being more involved in what's going on in the community. And with that, we've also decided to join pretty much like I said, I'm the vice president of the Business Alliance. I'm on the Restaurant Association. I serve on the Historical Preservation Board now. So really getting myself involved in the city politics of what's happening and making sure that restaurants are supported. Utah is a very interesting state when it comes to alcohol. There's a lot of states that are interesting, so Utah's not the worst. But one of the big things we did was get a liquor license. Yep. So we had served beer and wine, but actually going out and now being able to serve hard alcohol has completely changed the game for us. And you don't really think you're gonna go get like a whiskey Coke and a pizza slice, but you would be surprised how many families do. And that the price point between a beer and a whiskey soda, is almost double. Yep. And so in Utah, all liquor is sold by the state. So there's no discounting on liquor. So you cannot discount, you have to charge the same price for everything. So for us, that's been a pretty big game changer. The other thing is we actually own a lot behind the restaurant, which is very odd for Park City. There's not a lot of lots left.
Not a lot of real estate.
A lot of real estate left. People have offered to buy it, but we've kept it. It's great for our employees. We have 7 parking spots, but this spring we're gonna actually put in a big deck and put in like some sort of kind of doors, like the garage doors, and go out to a really big deck. And we want it to be a family-friendly deck. So what Park City doesn't have a ton of is family-friendly places that you're not just gonna run in and get food. Like family-friendly places where you wanna sit and actually spend a couple hours. So it's mostly the more fine dining. So what we wanna create is like a place where parents can have a glass of wine and they can hear the nice little stream going by, and then we're gonna put in like a kind of a playground thing below so kids can go out and like they can play and your parents can have fun, and we'll have a little band once COVID has opened up, and then that way we're really catering to a different kind of clientele. And then we actually have heated our outside deck. So we were not able to enclose it. It was probably one of the more impossible things, was finding an enclosure company that would do top and bottom on such a small space. But we've done heaters, and that's been amazing, because there's still quite a few people who don't feel comfortable eating in a restaurant, but will eat on your deck. So those are some of the big things we've done, is just community, and then we're gonna grow. And then really it's just getting back to the locals, and that's been a theme for Park City itself. Is Main Street has kind of a reputation of being for the tourists and not for the locals, and so my mission with the Business Alliance and with the restaurant is to get back to these people who are saying, I haven't been to Main Street in 2 or 3 years, but I live 2 miles away. And that's crazy, because this is the gem of our city. And so really trying to just get that. And then our delivery business was pretty, we really weren't, we had done delivery in the past, and then we just hadn't really done it. And then we just got really back into delivery this year, and of course that's huge. With our lot, we're able to do curbside. So curbside's been huge. And then I just created kind of a family special meal that is easy for families to pick up, with a 2-liter soda, bread, salad, pizza, at a good price point. And those just sell off the shelf, because it's like a quick thing to deliver to you and get back. And so yeah, so that's where we've revamped. And I mean, my brain is just very like, I have I just am obsessed with ideas. I'm not always I need someone else to execute them. I'm like, idea. So I've got a lot more up my sleeve.
Well, that's, and this is, I'm just finishing a book right now that you might enjoy if you've never heard of it. Have you heard of the book Deep Work?
No.
So I would recommend it to restaurant owners, business owners especially. It's a book on learning how to get your life, a lot of distractions out of your life, like checking your phone every 5 seconds for email or Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or the internet, but also learning how to take those idea sessions and create 2 or 3 hour windows where you can get deep into thought.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you know, one thing I've done is, it's probably been about 2 years, but I do not sleep with my cell phone in the bedroom, and I do meditation and yoga first thing when I wake up at I get up about 5:30, and that happens way before I do anything else, and then I will turn my phone on, and there's nothing that I've missed. I know my dad has his phone on, so like if the building burnt down, he would be okay, but you know, we would know. But that has like completely changed the way that I envision my whole day, and you know, a lot of stuff comes to me when I am doing like a meditation or yoga, or just even having those moments to myself where sometimes I'm writing an entire to-do list that I have to do for the day, but sometimes I'm like, whoa, this is the coolest idea I've ever had. So kind of a little new age there, but that's what gets us, you know, gets us moving.
And the book has a chapter on that. It talks about meditation, but it talks about a different meditation. So a lot of times we don't realize that if you're walking through a busy street, your brain's not resting because you've got, okay, do I cross here? You got this, you got all this stuff happening. If you're meditating in a garage, if you're walking through nature, you don't have those things that make you think and some of your deeper thoughts. Like me, I have a weight room in my house, and I literally will, you know, every other weight session, something like that, 45 minutes of just, I have nothing else to think about.
Exactly.
And you come up with some good ideas.
Well, and here we're in one of the most beautiful places ever. So I do like, in the winter it's a little bit harder, but in the summer, at least 4 days a week, I go to watch the sunrise at the top of the mountain. So I really love to hike, and so I'll do a 2-mile hike, and then just catching the sun as it rises. Then you're like, then I'll look down and because you can hike to the top of the mountain over here and look down at the city, and you're like, okay, this is why I do 16-hour days, and this is what I'm working for, and this is why it makes it all worthwhile. Because sometimes you get so stuck in this, like, you know, constantly being busy. And here with us, like I said, we're a little short-staffed, and so all of us are cooking, and all of us are waiting tables, and all of us are dishwashing, and I mean, to the point where I'm like, I will pay anybody on the street to dishwash. I hate dishwashing. It's like my very least favorite, even with a dishwasher machine. But you know, it really, we're in it. We're in the grind. There's not a day that one of my brother, my dad, or I are not here. And most of the time, it's the 3 of us. So we are owner-operators for sure.
Well, and I think you just answered the question I end every episode with. So I end every episode with a question of, how do you turn yourself on airplane mode? A lot of people, you got a phone, you turn it off, because what do you do to get away from, because a lot of times entrepreneurs, we get stuck working 16, 18-hour days, and we never spend time on ourselves. You might have answered the question, but what is it, the hikes that you take?
It's the hikes, and then it's skiing. I mean, we are lucky enough, like I said, our family's been here for so long that we all live up right by the ski resort. So you can ski into my house. You can't ski out of it. You can ski like 100 yards from it, which is amazing, and I'm so grateful for that. But if it wasn't for skiing, I mean, that's what gets my dad. My dad skis like probably 60 days a year, even if it's just a couple hours in the morning. And my brother is an awesome snowboarder, and he snowboards all the time. You got to call it skiing, or you know, it's the same thing. But we let it slide that he snowboards. But I mean, that's really why we're here, is the snowboarding and the skiing, and just, you know, our family is all here, and that's why I love it. That's why I came back from Colorado, is my family, even though we might not love each other so much at the end of a night when we've been so busy, but we're all in this together, so we love it.
Well, cool. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for coming. We're so glad to host you guys.
Cool. That's all we've got for this episode of NPTV. I'm going to hop off here, and I'm going to dig into some amazing red Banjo pizza. I'll see you next time.